to Crafting and Crime Daily. This is the show where I recap live trials for you. And today we're going to talk about two trials that are going on. One that finished up, one that will finish up probably today. It is super quick. Before I even have a chance to tell you about it, it's going to get wrapped up. I said to myself when I saw this is open shut. This is an open and shut case. So I will have everything time-stamped down in the description if you want to skip the new trial and just go right to the Henry Dinkins update. You can. Now, I'm going to have some coffee out of my gnome cup. So, just a little life update. First, I got to get comfortable in this chair. I'm going to the doctor. After I record this, going to the doctor for my car accident. And yesterday I had to go clean out my car. The crap that was in there. Oh my God. But most importantly, my iPhone cord, the charger, the holder that one of the subscribers bought me so I could keep the phone, you know what I mean, up on the, anyway. Because sometimes I used to do lives from my car. I don't do that much anymore. I used to do that on the way to work when I had a job. But now I'm unemployed. Yeah, so the car, I took some pictures of it. If you want to see those pictures, I'll show them tonight on my Craft With Me Wednesday live. That's tonight at 7 p.m. Central Time. Still working on the Great Escape painting. Great Escape 2023. That's the event that I'm hosting with my friend Mickey Sunshine Creates. Yes, so not much more than yesterday to show, really. But you'll get the idea. This painting is called Fairy Towns. It's from Rose Prophet. So this is the top down. Look at the trees. Oh my God, are they not gorgeous? Gorgeous. You can see the other side. Yeah. So I don't have a lot to do, a lot left on this painting, but I suspect what's left is probably the hardest part. Save the hardest part for last. Anyway, that's me. Then I'll go back to working on my logo painting. So let's talk about this new case. We're going to go to South Carolina. We're going back to Colleton County. And the judge is Clifton Newman, none other. Yes, he's the one that resided over the Alex Murdaugh trial. Now, everybody remembers that. This is a no-nonsense judge. And let me set the stage in the courtroom for you for this one. There are two defendants, RITA PANGALANGAN, got the name right, I practiced it, and her boyfriend, Larry King. So RITA has a set of lawyers, Larry has a set of lawyers, and then there is the solicitor. So in South Carolina, the lead prosecutor is called a solicitor. So we have the solicitor there trying this case. So he does his opening statements, and I don't think he was up there 5 minutes. I mean, I said to myself, this is open shut. This case, it's literally as we speak. It started yesterday morning. Today, the defense is taking the stand. Both defendants have opted to take the stand. Both Larry and RITA PANGALANGAN have opted to take the stand. So here's what happened on August 5th of 2019. RITA is the mom to 13-year-old Christina, who is suffering from cerebral palsy. That is a horrible, horrible brain condition, usually as a result of birth trauma. So I suspect something went wrong with this woman's pregnancy, and there was a lack of oxygen somewhere. And anyway, so she has Christina. Christina's special needs, obviously. She can't walk. She can't talk. She's wheelchair bound. There is a witness that they put on the stand yesterday that describes what kind of function she did have when she was alive. Yeah, that's the hint. She's dead. Turns out RITA and her boyfriend Larry left Christina in a hot car. Now, like I said, this was August of 2019 in South Carolina. It's hotter than a booger. Yeah. And that particular day, when she was put into the car around 11 o'clock, the temperature outside was 89 degrees with a heat index over 100. That's the outside temperature. Inside that car, It was anywhere from 118 to 135 degrees in that car. When the coroner checked Christina's body temperature, and he didn't get there right away. This is, yeah, it's a sad thing. Her internal temperature was 109.9. So her brain gave up, her organs failed, and she had blisters all over her body from the burns. She was literally cooking in the back of that vehicle. Yeah. Now here's the rub. There's a twist. Rita and Larry, turns out, were high on methamphetamines at the time that this occurred. So both both sets of defense lawyers argued to keep that out under 404B, which is that it's more prejudicial than it is probative. And the judge said, no, it's coming in. And that's why I like Clifton Newman. And it's funny because he was really chastising these lawyers before the case even started. The day before, when they picked the jury, at the end of the day, he said to the lawyers, is there anything else? And they're like, nope, nothing else. We're ready to go. So he told the jury to show up at 9 a.m. yesterday. So what happens at 9 a.m.? The lawyers have motions. And the judge was pissed. He's like, how did we go from having nothing to having a slew of filings at 2:30 a.m. in the morning? Now you're not respecting my time. You're not respecting the jury's time. I thought, ooh, these guys are in trouble. And he just was telling those lawyers off. So really interesting. So here's the rest of the opening argument. Rita brings the child out, puts her in the vehicle, or actually Larry carried the child out, put the child into the vehicle. And this was his defense argument. His defense is that once she was placed in that vehicle, he relinquished all control of the child, all care, all custody. This is not his kid. He was just helping out by putting her in the car. I don't know if that defense is going to fly. Rita PANGALANGAN, the defense attorney for Rita, got up and said she's got 2 grown daughters. She's got a master's degree in teaching. She's a decorated teacher of the year. She taught for 25 years. And, this was just a horrible accident. Okay, well, that's for the jury to decide. So the first person on the stand is an officer from SLED. Remember SLED? You were like, what's SLED? South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. And they are like the state police agency. And they're always there to help if the local police need assistance with crime scene investigation or, trace evidence, fingerprinting. They have all of that stuff ballistics that they could do at their law enforcement lab, where as a smaller police force, a lot of them don't have that kind of equipment. So this woman took the stand. Gorgeous girl. She works for narcotics division of SLED. She was on her way home when she heard over the radio that there was a 12-year-old locked in a car, unresponsive. She said she was just returning from a training class, and this was right down the street from her. She even says, I'm very familiar with Rita PANGALANGAN. And I'm like, ooh, how? They never said how, because it was the subject of a prior motion. Yes. I suspect Rita was known to the narcotics agent. Yeah. Or you can guess. Yeah. So she gets on the scene, and Christina's out of the vehicle, lying face down in the tall grass. Larry is on the phone with 911, and Rita's in the house doing whatever. I don't know. She's in the house. Now, the car was a Volkswagen Jetta. The front door of the residence was open. And when this officer went in, Rita said to her that she put Christina in the car, then she went back inside to get her cigarettes, and then when she came out, she discovered the car was locked. This officer described that the car was in the open, there was no shade around. Then we have another witness. Oh, the second witness is this girl who's now 22. At the time, she was 18. She was in high school, but she wanted to become a nurse. So her and her mom and Rita thought it would be a good idea if she learned how to take care of Christina, and then that way she'd have some experience nursing. So she shows up on August 2nd, which is 3 days before the hot car incident. She shows up there, and around noonish, this is on a Friday, she shows up at noon on a Friday. Rita spends several hours teaching her how to take care of Christina, diaper changes, feedings, um, how to entertain her. This girl described that Christina could crawl like a small child. She could crawl on her hands and knees, and she did express emotion, but she would laugh and cry, but she could not verbalize anything. So if she was sitting in that hot car, she couldn't help herself. She couldn't even scream. One of the things that the sled officer said was, as soon as she heard that call, she thought, "What is going on here?" She goes, "I know that I have a 6-year-old, and my 6-year-old can unlock the car and get out." She did. I guess she was familiar with Rita Pangalang, but not that Rita Pangalang had this disabled daughter. So, in any case, back to the 18-year-old. So she comes over. Rita teaches her for 4 or 5 hours how to take care of this child. Then around 5 p.m., she says, "Do you mind if I go on a date with my boyfriend, Larry?" And she's like, "No, go ahead." Thinking, she'll be back. Saturday rolls around. She says, "Yeah, I'll be back in a little while. I'll bring some groceries," because there was nothing in the house except Kool-Aid, the Ensure that the child drank to keep her protein up. That was it. There was nothing else. There's nothing for this 18-year-old to eat. Yeah, so she leaves her alone. She doesn't show back up till Sunday evening, like 5 o'clock Sunday evening. She's gone for 48 hours, leaves her child with this 18-year-old. The 18-year-old said she had no problem putting the child to bed. She didn't have any difficulties taking care of the child, but she later learned that what she was seeing in the child's bedding was bed bugs. So Rita takes off and leaves her with bed bugs, Kool-Aid, and Ensure. So then the next person on the stand used to be a roommate of Rita Pengeling. She was between houses. She was out of one house and looking to rent another house. So Rita said, "Why don't you stay here while you're looking?" So she stays at Rita's with her 2 kids. Rita asked her if she could babysit Christina while she went to work. And she said, "No, I got to go to work. I can't watch Christina." She's just leave her in the car with the windows down. I do it all the time. Jaw dropping. Yeah. The defense did not like that. In fact, they tried to move for a mistrial. They said that all of this stuff was coming in before, it has nothing to do with what happened that day. Yeah. Now, I only got halfway through the day. I still have the other half of the day to go. And then, like I said this morning, the defense is already up. The prosecutor rested their case. The defense is up. And what I want to do is I want to get that vehicle or the video, and I will show it to you. If they show it, they may not show it. They did not show any of the pictures. There were pictures that were entered into evidence from the crime scene that I suspect, that we didn't get to see. Yeah. There were descriptions of the child. She had these blisters all over her body, but we did not get to see that. So let's talk about Henry Dinkins. This one, ended up pretty strangely. So the last day of testimony, which was Friday, there was a forensic interviewer on. Now, she's not certified. There's no certificate for being a forensic interviewer, but she was trained. She had done the 20-hour training course on how to interview children who have been through trauma. What they did was they put her on the stand, and she had interviewed DL, the son of Henry Dinkins. Henry Dinkins is on trial for the kidnapping and murder of Breasia Terrell, who was DL's older sister. DL at the time was 8 years old. His sister was 10 years old. Both of them went to spend the night at Henry's and Andrea, his girlfriend's house apartment. She disappears in the middle of the night with Henry, never to be seen again. She's found dead 6 months later with several gunshot wounds. Yeah. So they showed both of the interviews. So this lady interviewed DL the morning that they started looking for. I've got that word Pangalangan in my the morning that they started looking for Breasia. She hadn't been disappeared for 12 hours, and they're interviewing DL. Now, the cute part of this interview is it was down at the police station. Outside of this interview room is a collection of toys that kids can pick out a toy if they want to make them feel comfortable during the interview. So he picks out this big Mickey Mouse, and he picks out a Minnie Mouse for his sister. And this is one of the things this interview said. She said the kids, they don't understand sequences. They don't, when they tell a story, they don't tell it sequentially. Sometimes they'll leave entire parts out, and they may not tell you about what they left out for weeks, which is why they did a second interview of DL a few weeks later. And he does mention some important details a couple of weeks later that he left out the first time. But the first time, he's like this carefree, happy-go-lucky child, and he's laughing and giggling and trying to tell his story of the time he spent with Dad. Does not tell the Walmart story in the first interview, that he went with Dad to the Walmart where Dad bought bleach. He does talk about it during the second interview. During the first and second interviews, he does not mention that he witnessed his dad shoot Breasia. He did, however, as an 11-year-old, when he took the stand, say that he witnessed his father shoot Breasia. First time he had ever said that, but he said it on the witness stand. So now we're thinking, is this kid credible? Is he not credible? Can you believe all the things he said or not? But here's what got me. Here's the thing that convinced me of this man's guilt. DL describes that his dad took him that morning. Dad picks him up from Andrea's house. He had been out doing God knows what, comes and picks up DL, says, we got to go. I got to return you to Mom. Breasia's missing. Got to go find her. So he says they drove around for a couple of hours. One of the places that he went, that DL describes it as being heavily wooded. It had a big hill that you had to go down this hill to get to this body of water. So they're thinking, oh, he's talking about Credit Island, because they had no idea where Breasia's body. As it turns out, Breasia's body was found 6 months later at a completely different area, but the description was exactly the same as what he had said. A wooded area, a hill that you had to walk down, and this body of water. But what else that he said was, and I don't remember it was the first interview or the second interview, he described it being, it's next to that white building, that big, where the workers are, and they're driving those things, with the hooks on them. And he was describing Kunau Implement, which is a big industrial place that's right next to the Kunal pond where Breasia's body was found. Here's the thing that convinced me. He said that Dad told him that he had gotten stuck there earlier and that he had offered the guy $100 to get him out. He says he says Dad told him that it was 6 guys that helped get his car unstuck. But I'm guessing he was not at Credit Island. He was actually out at this Kunal pond. This is where he said Dad took bleach and the machete out of the car and went down to the water with the bleach. So, interesting. So that is how this case ended up. So then they did their closing arguments. I also want to talk about this child's demeanor between that first and second interview. By the time this child has his second interview, which is just a couple of weeks later, he is so frustrated and angry. He's like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't want to answer any more questions. So I suspect Mom and Grandma were probably just grilling him, trying to figure out what he knew or what he saw, and how much of what he was telling during the second interview was stuff that he heard from other police officers, from his family. You got to weed through all that because sometimes children will hear stuff and then they'll adopt it as their story. And, we don't know. They suspect that in the second interview, he describes that large knife as being bloody. During the first interview, he talked about this large knife. He never mentions that it's bloody. And they ask him, how did you know the knife was bloody? He goes, I heard somebody downtown say that. Downtown? Who downtown? Here at the police station? No, downtown. When he gave the first interview, he said that after they had their showers that night, he and his sister made ham sandwiches for dinner. During the second interview, he said no, Dad made dinner. He made pizza rolls, hamburgers, grilled cheese, and ham sandwiches. Who knew? But he also described that he was out in the living room playing Grand Theft Auto, and Andrea was on her phone on the couch in the living room, and while that was going on, Henry was in the bedroom with Breasia playing a different game. As it turns out, I think they were playing Fortnite. So they were handing the controller back and forth. So when this was done, this testimony about the 2 interviews, the defense moved for judgment of acquittal, which is the routine motion that the defense always makes at the end of the evidence. They cited that there's no evidence that ties Henry Dinkins to this trial, to this case. There was no DNA found on Henry Dinkins for Breasia Terrell. Now, I suspect it's because he went into his sister's house the morning before they stripped him down to get his DNA. He took a shower, changed his clothes, and then went for his police interview, and then they took him to the hospital where they got DNA samples. So no, they didn't find Breasia's DNA on him. I did forget to mention that the defendant opted not to take the stand. So the defense put on no witnesses. So the judgment of acquittal, once he argued there was no DNA, there's nothing, they had all of these items that they had seized that were inside that Impala, water bottles, things like that they could have tested for DNA for Breasia, and they didn't do it. So there was no DNA from Breasia found inside that vehicle. So the prosecution's portion of the judgment of acquittal argument, she pretty much did her closing argument right there in front of the judge, laying forth all of the circumstantial. She said, yes, it's circumstantial evidence. It's not direct evidence. But if you take it in its totality, everything points towards Henry Dinkins. They never found the gold shoes that he had on. They never found the shorts that he had on that night to test for DNA. They couldn't test her body because it had decomposed over the 6 months that it was sitting out in a field. Plus, it looked like he had poured bleach on her. The shorts looked like they were black shorts with big white splotches, like it had bleach poured on it. So the judge denied the motion for acquittal, judgment of acquittal. Did I say that the defendant didn't take the stand? Yeah, I think I did say that. So they had the closing arguments. I covered the closing arguments live yesterday. And this prosecutor, she just went through every little step of this case. She's very thorough, really thorough. She really knows what she's doing. She first talked about the relationship between mom and the defendant, how she met him when she was 18. She thought he was in his 20s. He was actually in his 40s. Henry didn't have a permanent visitation with DL, mostly because he's a registered sex offender and he's not allowed to be around children. So, of course, he didn't have a custody arrangement to see his son. But he had seen his son a month before at a picnic that he hosted, and his son came to that. That was in June. So then she walks through the entire story. How, he picked them up on the 9th. He took Briasia, even though Grandma had said no, she can't go. He invited her in the car and took off with her. Then he takes them to his friend's house to play video games. Then he takes them home to Andrea, where Andrea's still working. She had to work till 7:30 that night. Andrea's showing Briasia what she does for a living. I think she worked for an insurance company or a phone company or something. AT&T phone company. Okay. And Briasia was fascinated with what she was learning from this woman. Then afterwards, they're playing video games. They both get showers. They get changed into clothes. Meanwhile, Mom has brought them clothes. Mom got off work at Checkers. She went home to Grandma's house, picked out clothes for both the kids, takes them over. Briasia goes downstairs, picks up the clothes, plays with the puppy that's in the car, wants to bring the puppy in the house. Mom's like, no, 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 puppy can't go with you. So Briasia goes back upstairs. After their showers, Dad gives them 4XL white t-shirts to wear to bed. Now, Briasia has on her little bralette and some shorts underneath this, black shorts underneath this large white t-shirt. The defense maintains that the reason he wanted her to have that on instead of the pajamas is because it would be harder to identify her body. That presupposes that he had planned to kill her ahead of time. I don't know. In any case, the kids, Briasia's the first one to go to bed. She goes to bed. Then around 11, Andrea goes to sleep on the air mattress that she has set up in the living room. After that, Henry goes to bed. And Henry tells DL, you can play your video game till 12:15, then you're going to need to go to sleep. So he does. At 12:15, he shuts it off. He goes to sleep. Everybody's in their bed. At 3 a.m., Andrea wakes up because she has to go to the bathroom. Welcome to my world, yeah. That bladder just doesn't hold out all night long anymore. So 3 a.m. she goes to the bathroom. Henry's gone. Briasia's gone. Yeah. He comes back at 3:30. She's got the lights off. He's sneaking up into the apartment. She sees him. She's like, what's going on? He won't even acknowledge her. He walks past her, goes into the closet in the bedroom, and takes something out. Now, the prosecution maintains that this was the 38, the gun. Now, the gun that they fished out of that pond near where Briasia's body was found, apparently, according to the defense, this gun was properly registered and had never been reported stolen and has no ties to Henry Dinkins. Yeah. So the closings are quite lengthy, but very, very thorough. And both lawyers did a fantastic job. If you want to watch that video in its entirety, I'll put the link here. I think if you sit through the entire thing, it's about 3.5 hours, but you can fast forward through the breaks. So, because they took a mid morning break and something else. Just maybe it was just one break. Yeah, one break. So you can watch that if you're interested. It is fascinating to hear the entirety of the story with all of the evidence put together. It's just overwhelming against Henry Dinkins, the circumstantial evidence. If you were to assume that he didn't kill her, then who did? Like, she was seen outside the Impala standing there at 3:30 in the morning when Andrea looked out that window. Henry was fishing around the closet. Andrea looks out the window. She sees Briasia. There's no reason to believe that Briasia didn't get in that vehicle when Henry left with whatever it was he took out of the closet. She didn't know this neighborhood. She didn't know anybody in this neighborhood where she could have gone. He didn't take her home. He's the last person to see Briasia Terrell. If he's not the murderer, what was he doing all night long, going here and there and everywhere? And why do you show up at, 7 a.m. when Walmart opens to buy 2 bottles of bleach, which were also never found? Yeah. Then, before you go for your police interview, you change your clothes. And the clothes that you had on are never found again. Guilty. So, when all was said and done, the judge says, okay, I'm going to deliberate and then I will render my decision. The last time I heard a judge say that, it was a Missouri case, and it took the judge 3 weeks to render his decision. So, needless to say, these lawyers were not waiting around, and neither did the networks that were covering this live trial. So, when there is a decision by this judge, because there was no jury, he opted to have the judge make this decision. And the judge, even though he's not allowed to consider the fact that this guy is a pedophile, a registered sex offender, he knows about it. He knows because they argued motions about it in front of him. So, yeah. So I'll bring you that verdict whenever I get it. I'll let you know what that judge decides. I don't think it'll be any surprise that Henry's going to be convicted. I'd be shocked if he wasn't. I really would. So that is the show for today, guys. This, like I said, this new trial is going very, very quickly. There's another new trial that started today. I will see if I can fit that one in for you tomorrow as well. I'll try. I have a live tonight. I have a doctor's appointment I have to leave for now. So have a great day, everybody. I will see you tonight and during the live at 7 p.m. Central. If not, I'll see you tomorrow in Crafting and Crime Daily. Have a great Wednesday. Bye.